Good afternoon, everyone. Can someone tell me whether my voice is clear and is this screen clearly visible to all of you? So welcome to today's session, and today we'll be doing 24th and 25th February news. Okay, in this manner, and today is 28th, so tomorrow we'll be doing 26th, 27th in the morning. Tomorrow lecture will be in the morning, 10:30. So be there at that particular point of time, and most probably by the day after tomorrow we'll be on track with respect to current affairs. Okay, and we'll continue to do so till the examination. So you can be rest assured with respect to that. And tomorrow also we'll be doing RBI circular class. Okay, so meet me at the same time, that is right now 3:30 tomorrow for RBI circular class. We'll be doing RBI circulars discussion from 16th January till 31st January document. Okay. And for those of you who already have the document with yourself, that means the document of 16th to 31st RBI circular, okay, make sure you at least give a read, one single read to that document, so that you better understand, or so that you have any question with respect to understanding any of the aspect of that particular circular, so you can ask me in the question session itself. Okay. So without further ado, let's start with today's current affairs. So the Paytm saga has been continuously moving on, and the latest development in the Paytm saga, as all of you remember in the previous classes, we are also discussing that because Paytm payment banks are not allowed to operate its wallet functionalities, so that's why Paytm is asking for one type of license from NPCI. Okay, because Paytm payment banks are not able to operate their wallet services. So 197, the Paytm parent company is seeking a license from NPCI so that they can offer UPI services through its platform. Okay, and what is the name of that license? Does anyone remember? What is the name of the license that Paytm is seeking from NPCI so that it can continue to operate its UPI functionalities at least? Yes, correct, Toshad and Anjali. TPAP, which is third party application provider. Okay, it is the license that you require in order to utilize UPI payment services. Such type of license is already with PhonePe, because of which PhonePe allows UPI services on its platform. Okay? Because it's a third party, it's not the party that is involved in the payment ecosystem. Okay, तो इसी directive के context में RBI is also saying that every other that RBI also announced the migration of Paytm UPI handle to a new set of banks to minimize disruption post March 15. तो जितने भी Paytm payment banks से connected UPI handles थे, they are all being shifted to some other banks, so that all those people who had their account in Paytm can function consecutively. Okay? And the migration process involves Paytm seeking third-party application provider license from NPCI so that it can utilize or it can tie up with other banks for providing wallet services. Okay? Because Paytm Payment Bank is not able to operate this. Next is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India is asking telecom operators to speed up rollout of digital consent acquisition and digital ledger technologies. And this is in context of one set of news that we discussed previously, that government is seeking to draft rules with respect to pesky calls or unsolicited calls. जैसे आप लोगों को कॉल आती है, आपको पता ही नहीं है कि कौन कर रहा है, until unless you have Truecaller, you are not able to identify whether it's a spam or not, isn't it? So it is in this context that the government is saying, please deploy these technologies. First is digital consent acquisition technology, and the next is digital ledger technology. So what does the first technology does? So digital consent acquisition does what, or it will be doing what, if it is being employed by the telecom operators, for example, Airtel, Jio as well as Vodafone. Okay, then every telecom marketing company, for example, let's say Bajaj, which usually gives a call for personal loan for all those purposes. So every time if they want to send you calls, first of all, they need to seek your consent if this technology is deployed. So you are responsible for providing consent whether you can call me or not, or whether any marketing company can call me or not. Okay, so this is that technology. And the next technology is digital ledger technology. It's a ledger that contains the details of all marketing companies. All these marketing companies, first of all, they need to register themselves on this ledger, and this ledger will be handled by telecom companies. ठीक है? I have started static. When should I start descriptive? Right now or not? Abhishek, you please complete your static. Okay? And once you complete your static, then you will be able to do justice to descriptive answers. Okay? That's what I would recommend. Next news is in similar context only, and this is another technology being suggested by TRAI. So TRAI wants introduction of calling name presentation supplementary services to be deployed by all telecom operators. Okay? Basically what they are saying is, आपको application download करके you get to know about the person who is calling you, and that application usually is Truecaller. But what if by telecom operators only you get to understand, or you get to already have a pre-installed technology that can give you the name that who is calling you. So that's what the technology is. ठीक है? उसमें आपको पहले से ही पता चल जाएगा कि कौन कर रहा है आपको कॉल. ठीक है? और ये टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए आपको कोई एप्लीकेशन डाउनलोड नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. इनफैक्ट द टेलीकॉम कंपनीज वो आपको ये फैसिलिटी प्रोवाइड करेंगे. ठीक है? तो इज दिस क्लियर टू एवरीवन? चलो, next, WTO meeting, okay, which is also talking about various issues. Yesterday also we discussed that the WTO 13th ministerial conference is currently going on in Abu Dhabi, okay, and these are the key issues that the government of India focusing is upon in this ministerial meeting, and these are also the government of India's position alongside the issue in place. The food security, agricultural reforms, fishery subsidies, agricultural and fishery subsidies. If I just ask you that in context of sorry, in context of agreement on agriculture, as all of you know that the subsidies are usually classified into 3 boxes. Okay? Can anybody of you name those boxes? Subsidies offered by the states are usually classified within 3 boxes under agreement on agriculture. And what are the name of these 3 boxes? Yes, correct. Amber, green, blue. बहुत बढ़िया. ठीक है. And the amber box contains subsidies which are much more trade distorting. ठीक है. अब trade distorting subsidies are what? For example, you know, the price of any commodity is usually dependent upon the market forces of demand and supply. But instead of that, if you put in government and government says, okay, भाड़ में गई मार्केट, आपको हम इतने प्राइस पे देंगे, इवन दो मार्केट प्राइस बहुत कम चल रही है, तो फार्मर्स मार्केट में बेचेंगे ही नहीं, फार्मर्स सीधा गवर्नमेंट को बेचेंगे, and that is what the MSP is all about. But the government is doing this in context of food security purposes and also providing remunerative income for farmers. So we have a different intention with respect to that and not against the market. But whereas developed countries and other WTO countries do not think in that manner. So they want to eliminate these type of subsidies. Okay, so this is what the issue will be. Urgent resolution on public stock holding for food security. And India's position? It wants a permanent solution to protect developing countries from legal challenges over such type of subsidies. ठीक है, तो ये तो हो गया फूड सिक्योरिटी का इशू. नेक्स्ट इज फिशरीज सब्सिडी. So in context of fishery subsidies, we've discussed this in previous class also, that the government or the WTO member countries wants to eliminate all type of unregulated, illegal or, you know, harmful fishing, especially in zones that are overexploited. But what is India's position, if any one of you remember? What is India's position in context of the issue of fishery subsidies? कल ही तो पढ़ा था. For as in, मतलब India also wants to, you know, agree upon that they will remove the subsidies provided to fishing sector. Yes, India does not want to do that because the subsidies provided by India, especially to the small scale fishermen, you know, is important for their livelihood as well as food security in the coastal regions of the country. So naturally they do not want to go ahead with this fishery subsidy agreement. So they want peace clause with respect to that, कि जो elimination of subsidies का agreement है, this shall apply to developing countries after some period when they can become almost developed like country. ठीक है. Next is e-commerce. The e-commerce we've already discussed that in 1999 WTO agreed upon moratorium on custom duties between cross-border transaction, particularly in context of e-commerce. But फिर वो apply नहीं किया गया, तो अभी तक even all the e-commerce transaction, despite e-commerce industry being a very multi-billionaire industry, still custom duties are not being applied on it. And the government is losing out of huge revenue. So naturally you can understand what the Indian government position will be. So they want to end this moratorium on custom duties, specifically in context of e-commerce cross-border transactions. ठीक है, देखो ये सारे issues आप लोग दिमाग में रखिए. आपके पास कम से कम 100 words हर एक issue पे लिखना आना चाहिए. This will help you in descriptive paper in RBI phase 2 और ये पक्का आएगा इस बार, लिख के ले लो. ठीक है, मैं यहां लिख देता हूं RBI phase 2 ESI descriptive, one question related to WTO 13th ministerial conference specifically will come. ठीक है, और इट्स नॉट लाइक कि ऐसी रैंडम दावा कर रहे हैं यार, इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक, आपके सिलेबस में स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन है एंड इट्स अ वेरी ह्यूज थिंग विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द कंट्री ऑल्सो, ठीक है। तो इस साल जितने भी पेपर्स होंगे, तो एनीवेज ऑल ऑफ दीज आर इश्यूज आर वेरी क्रिटिकल फॉर इंडियन डेवलपमेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑल्सो। Just give me a sec. ठीक है, तो आई होप ऑल ऑफ यू अंडरस्टैंड दीज थ्री मेजर इश्यूज एंड देन वी हैव दिस डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट इशू। तो डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू दैट देयर इज एन appellate body within WTO which is right now defunct. And why do you think it is right now defunct? Can anyone tell? We've discussed this ample amount of times. The appellate body in WTO, why it is right now defunct, and why is it not functioning right now? Anyone? Yes, Saurabh, correct, बहुत बढ़िया, yes, Solo, correct. Good morning, good afternoon, Karthik. No appointment, yes, very fine, ठीक है। तो यही इशू है इसमें, दिस इज व्हाट यू कॉल quorum. What is quorum? Quorum is like minimum amount of members that needs to be present on the bench in order for bench to function, है ना। और quorum है 3 members का, whereas only 2 members are still there, 1 member appointment is still stuck, nobody is agreeing upon that appointment, and that's why the body is right now defunct, and because of which developed countries are saying, developing countries अपनी मनमौजी कर रहे हैं, कोई भी सब्सिडी लगा रहे हैं और हम लोग की कोई सुनवाई नहीं करना है, so we need to do a reform in this context, ठीक है। So what they are thinking? They are thinking of 2-tier dispute resolution system and restoration of appellate body. What is India's position? India is saying जो भी करना है सब रूल के बेस में करिए, ठीक है, जो भी WTO के अग्रीमेंट्स हैं उनके हिसाब से करिए, ओके, एंड द डिस्प्यूट बॉडी शुड बी इंडिपेंडेंट एंड इट अपोजेस चेंजेस एडवोकेटेड बाय डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज एम्फसाइजिंग एफिशिएंसी एंड इंडिपेंडेंस, ठीक है। And next, the most important thing is non-trade issues. So non-trade issues में, as you can see, the sustainable development issue, in which it says that opposes inclusion of non-trade issues such as environment and labor in WTO discussions. So if you remember, recently only, within this week only, if you guys remember, on Monday we discussed one particular, duty imposed by a Western nation or a Western group of nations, which, in the garb of environmental achievements or in the garb of environmental, goals, they have actually put various restrictions on exports from developing countries, So does this ring a bell to any one of you? Yes, Matthew, correct. Carbon border adjustment mechanism. Okay, so it is in this context that India is saying, okay, it is essential that in the name of sustainable development, no non-trade barriers should be applied, especially in WTO. ठीक है, तो आप लोग ये सारी चीजें अपने दिमाग में रखिए. ये whenever a question on WTO comes, make sure you talk about all these 5 issues. इसमें से एक भी मिस नहीं होना चाहिए. ठीक है, 5 पॉइंट है, इश्यूज आपके सामने, इंडिया की पोजीशन आपके सामने. यू कैन ऑल्सो गिव एग्जांपल्स ओवर हियर. आई एम ऑल्सो टेलिंग यू, डू मेंशन अबाउट कार्बन बॉर्डर एडजस्टमेंट मैकेनिज्म एग्जांपल ओवर हियर. ठीक है, मेक श्योर यू डू दैट. Next is NSO data on national pension system adoption, especially in context of companies or corporates. Okay, so in the month of December, it has been notified or it has been noticed that the new enrollments under NPS by companies saw an increase of 9%. Okay, so we'll just focus on either static or the annual data. We can just ignore it right now. But at least do remember what's the figure or what's the average figure that is continuing in context of new enrollments. Okay? So you can see in the corporate segment, new monthly subscribers increased to 8,420 in December as compared to 7,728 in November. And this is the rough figures with respect to subscribers of NPS. Central government subscribers 70,000, state government 41,000, corporate sector 77,000. So at least you remember that corporate subscribers are the highest, then central government, then state government. So at least ये picture अपने दिमाग में रखिए कि in terms of number of subscribers, which sector constitutes the large number of NPS subscribers. ठीक है, this anyways can come. Or in context of NPS, can anybody tell when was NPS opened up for corporates? किसी को याद है? Yes, Anjali, correct. 2011. ठीक है, तो ये सब चीजें भी याद रखना. These are flagship schemes. ठीक है, if such type of news is coming, make sure you do NPS scheme thoroughly from Ministry of Finance scheme document. ठीक है, RBMS schemes के एकदम detailed questions always comes, especially in ESI. Next is RBI allow bank as well as non-bank to issue PPIs for public transport. So PPIs, prepaid payment instruments, these are, you know, tools through which you can buy goods and services. Okay, for example, wallets or prepaid cards. So think about that Reserve Bank of India has now recently allowed banks and non-banks also to issue prepaid payment instruments so that people can do transaction for metro services, buses, railways, waterways, tolls and parking. तो जैसे अभी the right to issue prepaid instruments in context of metro was given to दिल्ली मेट्रो की अगर बात कर लें तो दिल्ली मेट्रो का कार्ड इशू कौन करता है, आप बताइए. How many of you are from Delhi? NPCI करता है क्या? आप NPCI से लेने जाते हो क्या? DMRC का कार्ड? Where do you get DMRC? Yes, DMRC only, है ना? DMRC was allowed by Reserve Bank of India to issue prepaid payment instrument for mass transit systems. ठीक है? और this prepaid instrument was called Metro Smart Card, है ना? Through which you could do the transactions. हाँ, क्रेडिट कार्ड कैन ऑल्सो बी कॉल्ड पीपीआई, बट फिर उसमें ना क्लासिफिकेशन बहुत आ जाता है, ओपन एंडेड, सेमी क्लोज्ड, क्लोज्ड, सो दैट्स अ डिफरेंट बॉल गेम. ठीक है, बट लेट्स जस्ट स्टिक टू व्हाट प्रीपेड इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स आर बीइंग डिस्कस्ड इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ मास ट्रांजिट सिस्टम. ठीक है, तो आप लोग मेट्रो का एग्जांपल, मेट्रो कार्ड का एग्जांपल अपने दिमाग में लेके चलिए, एंड दिस विल make this system much more simplified. ठीक है, so these prepaid payment instruments were previously issued by DMRC, and now even banks and non-banks can also issue those cards. ठीक है, तो आने वाले समय में आपको बैंक्स भी मेट्रो कार्ड ये सब ऑफर करते हुए मिलेगी. ठीक है, and what are the key features of PPIs for public transport? That first of all, it facilitate purchase of all the services, especially that are there in mass transport, and the outstanding amount on these instruments shall not exceed 3,000 rupees in any case scenario. ठीक है, okay, and obviously there are other features also. For instance, can you do, transfer of money from these prepaid instruments? Anyone? From one card to another card? हाँ, तो फिर ये प्रॉपर्टी अपने दिमाग में रखना कि such type of prepaid payment instruments cannot do transfer from one card to another card. ठीक है? So that's why I'm telling you, think about Metro card, remember its features, and you will be able to do most of the questions, especially in context of prepaid in mass transit system. ठीक है, चलो, let's move on to, and another thing, please remember this limit, 3,000 rupees. Next is center releases key consumption expenditure डेटा. ठीक है, 2019 में डेटा आने वाला था, बट बिकॉज ऑफ जीएसटी एंड अदर इश्यूज दैट डेटा वाजंट बीन रिलीज्ड एट दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. ठीक है, बट नाउ दैट गवर्नमेंट हैज रिलीज्ड, सो यू कैन सी दिस सर्वे वाज कंडक्टेड बिटवीन August 22 and July 23. Okay, and the survey highlights include average monthly per capita consumption expenditure in Indian households increased by 33.5% since 2011-12 in urban areas. ठीक है, this is a very important report. I will include this report highlights in report document part 2. ठीक है, अभी part 1 आप लोग को मैंने दिया हुआ है. In part 2, this report will again come, so you can revise it over there also. But if somebody wants to revise it from here, they can do so. Okay, so this monthly per capita expenditure in rural areas increased to 2145, while in urban areas in absolute term it reached 4945. ठीक है, consumption expenditure क्या है basically? They're just checking and they're surveying how much expenditure every household is doing, especially in rural areas and as well as in urban areas in context of various consumer goods. ठीक है, so implication is reduction in food spending as a share of total expenditure could affect retail inflation calculations, and these figures exclude imputed values of benefits received through social welfare program, for example गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना. ठीक है, कि वो सारी वैल्यूज इसमें इंक्लूडेड नहीं है. And what are the detailed findings? That 1.55 lakh households have been covered. The bottom 5% of India's rural population has an average of 1300 rupees consumption, while the same bottom 5% in urban areas does 2000 rupees monthly consumption. So you can imagine how much low the consumption is, especially in rural areas. And the top 5% is doing in rural areas 21,000 and in urban areas 20,000, ironically. ठीक है. Next is DBS Bank has projected current account deficit as well as balance of payment surplus for India. ठीक है. So the bank says that current account deficit will narrow to 0.8% of GDP this fiscal year, and the projection it is saying is lower than the earlier estimate. Whereas balance of payment, they are saying it will be in surplus of $45 billion this year. ठीक है, contrasting with earlier 9 billion deficit in the previous fiscal. Next is Indian forex reserves decline. This is usually a weekly data released by RBI. ठीक है, तो again I'm saying forex data is important, but the data just before or just on an average, if it is an annual data, or if the data regarding forex is coming from RBI report, or just within 1 month of your examination. ठीक है. And apart from that, what is important in context of forex? That you know its components. So what are the 4 components of forex? Everyone? So what are the major components of forex reserves? Or what constitutes forex reserves in India? Everyone. If I ask you, forex reserve इंडिया में किन किन चीजों में बटे हुए हैं? Gold, okay. SDR, RTP, एक और बचा, बताइए. हाँ ऑब्वियसली यार, फॉरेन करेंसी एसेट्स, केवल डॉलर नहीं, बहुत सारे पैसे हमारे पास. ठीक है, अब ये सब तो बता दिया. व्हाट्स द फुल फॉर्म ऑफ एसडीआर एंड आरटीपी, जिन्होंने भी ये बताया हुआ है. यस कार्तिक, करेक्ट. फॉरेन करेंसी एसेट्स. व्हाट्स द फुल फॉर्म ऑफ एसडीआर एंड आरटीपी? ठीक है, बहुत बढ़िया, गुड. Special drawing rights and reserve tranche position. So if I ask you, these two things are related to which international organization? बहुत बढ़िया, गुड। IMF, इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड, ठीक है। And if I ask you, amongst the 4 components of foreign currency asset, gold, SDR as well as RTP, which component constitutes the most amount within the forex reserves? Which component constitutes the majority in the forex reserves? Everyone. बहुत बढ़िया, गुड। फॉरेन करेंसी एसेट्स, ठीक है। एंड इफ आई आस्क यू इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ फॉरेन करेंसी एसेट्स, इन विच करेंसी द फॉरेन करेंसी एसेट्स or which currency accounts for majority of foreign currency assets? बहुत बढ़िया। कौन सा डॉलर? यूएस डॉलर, अमेरिकन और या फिर ऑस्ट्रेलियन डॉलर? अरे आई एम जस्ट किडिंग, यूएस डॉलर, यस। चलो ठीक है। Now let's move on to next news, national news. So Nokia and ISC Bangalore have signed a partnership for 6G research. ठीक है, 6G connectivity. So they will be jointly doing research on 6G. Okay. So Nokia newly opened 6G lab in Bangalore. Next is government to construct almost 12,000 to 13,000 kilometers highway construction in the current financial year. Okay, this is what they are hoping, that they'll be able to complete this much amount of kilometers of highway. So our highway minister is actually working, non-stop in context of highway constructions. Next is top 5 states in leveraging corporate social responsibility funds. So corporate social responsibility, as all of you know, it's a legal mandate under section 135 of Companies Act that companies have to provide 2% of their profits toward CSR activities, and these activities can be regarding water sanitation projects and all those things. ठीक है? So it is in this context, and these CSR activities, most of the companies, what they do, the state in which these companies are usually located in, okay, so they provide 2% profits towards CSR activities within their state only. So for example, Maruti Suzuki, as all of you know, it is in Gurgaon or Manesar. So most of the CSR activities, for example, if they installed any water purification plant in nearby village only, so they do most of the CSR activities in the near vicinity of their plant, or most probably in the same state only. Okay, so if you see, a lot of these states are getting funds in context of CSR. Okay, so if you rank these states, so you get to understand UP rank amongst the top 5 states receiving significant CSR funds, alongside महाराष्ट्र, कर्नाटका, गुजरात, तमिलनाडु। ठीक है, तो ये रैंकिंग अपने दिमाग में छाप लीजिए। उत्तर प्रदेश, महाराष्ट्र, कर्नाटका, गुजरात, तमिलनाडु। ठीक है, मैप बना के याद करना है तो मैप बना के याद कर लो, लेकिन ये सारे रैंकिंग्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट। ऐसे रिवीजन के बाद दिमाग में छप जाता है, तो यही मोटिव है यार इन लेक्चर्स का, इन डिस्कशंस का, सो दैट दीज थिंग्स गेट इनटू योर माइंड एंड यू डू नॉट फॉरगेट दीज थिंग्स एंड यू डू वेल इन योर एग्जामिनेशन। चलो, okay, so Uttar Pradesh recently conducted UPCSR summit, where it asked private sector and cites its large consumer market and growing influence, and it is asking for increasing CSR contribution by all corporates. So if you see UP's CSR corpus, so you can see right now it is 1,500 crores in 2022-23, whereas it was just merely 148 crores in 2014-15. So almost 10 times jump. Next is Election Commission of India allots new poll symbol to NCP, Nationalist Congress Party, headed by Sharad Pawar, and this is the symbol. Okay, and the name of the symbol, man blowing turha, so that you can remember that also. कुछ पता नहीं phase 1 में क्या आ जाए, तो at least ये सब चीजें हम लोग ध्यान में रखिए. Next is development projects in Varanasi. Prime Minister Modi went over there. He approved or he inaugurated projects worth 13,000 crores in Varanasi, his Lok Sabha constituency. Okay, and these projects include road, cooking gas, bottling plant, milk processing unit, and the most important thing for you guys to remember is a NIFT in Varanasi is also started establishing over there. Okay? So if a question can come with respect to this, CSR, Karthik, is corporate social responsibility. Okay, it is like a legal mandate that every company has to do as per section 135 of Companies Act 2013. Every company, when they are generating profits, to 2% of that profit, every company has to put it for social activities. For example, let's say you put money into developing water purification plant in the nearby village which has water problem. Okay, so it is that only. Okay, so NIFT Varanasi will be established. Next is, recently, as all of you know, that Ministry of Home Affairs, passed a bill in the Parliament regarding criminal laws. Okay, so these three laws, Indian Penal Code, Code of Criminal Procedure, and Indian Evidence Act, these act received amendments. Okay, and these act also received Parliament's or President's assent with respect to approval. Okay, and these will be applicable from July 1st. Okay, and even though they are criminal acts, it does not mean that they will not come. And I'll tell you, they will definitely come. Or mostly, if aapse question पूछे जाएंगे, so this will be naturally they will be asking you from when these will be applied. July 1st. Okay. Next is with respect to FATF, which is Financial Action Task Force. Okay, so this is a little bit with respect to their methodology revision. Okay, so they have modified their assessment methodology that aligns with recent revision in standards for protecting non-profit organization from terrorist financing. Okay. The plenary or the meeting was chaired by T. Rajakumar from Singapore. So chairman का नाम याद रख लेना. Next is Prime Minister's announcement, world's largest agri storage plan. Okay. So this plan involves an outlay of 1.25 lakh crore over 5 years. This will become the world's largest grain storage initiative globally. Okay, and what's the purpose? It will facilitate farmers in storing and selling their produce at opportune time, enable farmers to avail loan from banks against store produce. If I ask you, what does this initiative is trying to solve? What major issue this initiative is trying to solve within the Indian agriculture sector? देखो न्यूज़ को रिलेट करने का ट्राई करिए, बिकॉज वंस यू रिलेट दिस न्यूज़ विद द इशू देन यू कैन ईजिली कोट दिस इनिशिएटिव एज अ वैल्यू एडिशन इन योर आर्ग्यूमेंट्स इन द डिस्क्रिप्टिव पेपर. बहुत बढ़िया, गुड. It is about post harvest loss. ठीक है, as all of us know that almost close to 40% of the produce every year get wasted. Okay, so if we have a dedicated post harvest infrastructure development initiative, okay, then obviously not only, अब देखो इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा फायदे हैं. ठीक है, if I ask you what are the various benefits associated with it, if you think about in terms of stakeholders, you will be able to much better tell us about the benefits of this initiative. So if I ask you farmers को क्या क्या benefit होंगे, can you guys tell? What benefits can it accrue to farmers? देखो सबसे पहले ऑब्वियसली दैट दे गेट टू हैव अ फैसिलिटी. पहले तो फैसिलिटी ही नहीं होती थी, प्रोड्यूस पड़ा हुआ है उसको कवर कर दो. कवर एंड प्लिंथ वाज द मेथोडोलॉजी टू स्टोर योर grains. So first of all, the basic thing that you have a facility to store your produce. Okay, then obviously you also get to save most of your produce. Now your produce will not get wasted because of weather conditions or any other conditions. Then obviously you get to have an opportunity to sell your produce at any time you want. Then also against your produce you can go to the bank and ask for money also. Okay, so in context of farmer you have these many benefits, and if you ask with respect to overall economy, so what are the various benefits? तो जो GDP waste हो रही है that will not be wasted, है ना. आपने produce किया, then you need to sell that produce, then naturally your GDP will also grow. तो agriculture sector will also grow. Income within the agriculture sector can grow. What else? Think about the food security aspects. 40% तो वेस्ट हो रहा है. अगर फूड सिक्योरिटी तो फूड सिक्योरिटी, वी कैन हैव ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट्स ऑल्सो. ठीक है, सो ऑलवेज थिंक इन दैट टर्म्स कि टू डिफरेंट स्टेक होल्डर्स हाउ दिस इनिशिएटिव यू विल बी or how this initiative will be benefiting. Because देखो अब ऐसा है ना कि in context of any of the issue that you will be discussing, either in post harvest or either in context of agriculture or either in context of farmers or government also, या government का कोई food security का issue भी है, or you can always quote this example. You can always quote this example. ठीक है, understood everyone? चलो, let's move on to the next. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate AIIMS Kalyani, okay, in West Bengal. So just remember the institute and where it will be established. Next is development of defense manufacturing hub in Maharashtra. Okay. So Maharashtra to revise its aerospace and defense manufacturing policy. It will focus on enhancing states' contribution to defense manufacturing. Okay, and these are the major clusters that they are thinking about: Nagpur, Shirdi, Pune, and Ratnagiri. Please remember these names. Okay, state-specific context में these are very important because this is defense specific news, and as all of you understand that how much government is focusing upon, putting private investments also in the defense sector. Next is India's defense production and exports projection. According to Defense Minister, by financial year 28-29, India aims for annual defense production of 23 lakh crores and defense exports of 2,50,000 crores. Okay, India wants to become a top 25 arms exporter nation. Next is structural defense reforms. Emphasis on jointness among Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, and financial allocation and capital acquisition. Allocation of 6.21 lakh crores to defense budget for 24-25. This all of you remember. We discussed this in budget. In principle approval for capital acquisition worth 24 lakh crores. Next is Prime Minister Modi inaugurate Sudarshan Setu, India's longest cable-stayed bridge in the Gulf of Kutch. अब देखो again, and it will not be me exaggerating these things. Whatever Prime Minister inaugurates, okay, all those things anyway becomes important, and they become more important when whatever he inaugurates become either India's longest or Asia's largest or even region's largest. ठीक है, वो सारे इनिशिएटिव तो आप लोग को नोट्स बना के चलो, even though these things are way behind the examination that you will be doing or giving in month of June as well as month of July. ठीक है, also known as signature bridge, it will link Gujarat with Bet Dwarka island of Ukha coast. So SP Singla Construction Limited is responsible for construction of collapsed Sultanganj bridge in Bihar, and this bridge was constructed by this signature bridge was constructed by NH division of Gujarat Roads and Buildings Department. Next is scheme for coal projects. So the government approves 8,500 crores for coal to gas projects. Okay, so coal to gas technology. Everything obviously, और gas कौन सी produce करते हैं? This is syngas. Okay, these are the properties that it is less polluting, it is versatile, and okay, and it obviously reduces our reliance on imported natural gas. It will reduce import bill. ठीक है. Next is international news. So defense cooperation talks between India and Netherlands. So the important thing that you can remember, especially when there is no agreement with respect to any defense, so at least please remember the defense minister's name of Netherlands, Katsa Ollongren. Another bilateral talks between India and Czech Republic. External Affairs Minister over there is Jan Lipavsky. India-US Consular Dialogue, 11th bilateral consular dialogue, and because India-US relationship is global comprehensive relationship, ठीक है? So they will be naturally discussing about various issues, not only related to bilateral and even multilateral. Next is Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest freestanding mountain. ठीक है? A freestanding mountain क्या होता है? And Mount Kilimanjaro is the world's tallest freestanding mountain. ठीक है? तो इसको याद रखो. What is a freestanding mountain? Does anyone? चलो मैं बता दूँ. Think about Mount Everest. है ना? Mount Everest is not located in a standalone fashion. माउंट एवरेस्ट पे पहुंचने के लिए देर आर वेरियस रेंजेस, है ना. You go height by height and then you reach Everest and then you go to its peak. Whereas free standing की लैंड पड़ी हुई है, उस पर अकेला खड़ा है, ठीक है. Alone mountain, no ranges. So Mount Kilimanjaro is world's tallest freestanding mountain, and this is located in which country? Mount Kilimanjaro. Does anyone remember? Who can tell Mount Kilimanjaro is located in which country? Is correct, Tanzania. ठीक है, Tanzania. And Tanzania is located in west coast or east coast of Africa? यस करेक्ट, ईस्ट कोस्ट. ठीक है, यहाँ हो गया सोमालिया, केन्या, तांजानिया, फिर आई गेस मोजाम्बिक, ये रहा मेडागास्कर, सेशल्स, रियूनियन वगैरह वगैरह. नेक्स्ट MOUs. So Pernod Ricard to invest in malt distillery. ठीक है. So they have signed MOU with Maharashtra government to establish malt distillery in Nagpur, investing around 1,800 crores. Okay. So this distillery will be India's largest distillery with capacity of up to 60,000 liters per day. Okay. And these will be the brands: Longitude, BP and Royal Stag. Next is appointment committees and conferences. Infosys CEO Salil Parekh joins US India Strategic Partnership Forum. ठीक है, तो Infosys का current CEO के बारे में at least you should remember the name. Next is committee to boost direct listing at GIFT City. Okay, so International Financial Services Center Authority IFSCA establishes a committee for developing primary market and direct listings at GIFT City. The chairman is TV Mohandas Pai. Okay, it's a 21-member committee. It's very important, as all of you know, direct listing, primary, listing of any company on any exchange, all of you already understands. किसी को, does anyone have any issue with respect to how companies are listed on markets? पता है ना सबको, या do you guys want me to tell you once again? Okay, as all of you know, think about it as NSE, ठीक है, National Stock Exchange. So if you go to National Stock Exchange, there are various shares of companies like Infosys, HDFC already present over there. ठीक है, तो आप Zerodha का account खोलो. Okay, these shares are available for you to buy and sell. ठीक है, तो this is already what you call secondary market, where the shares are already listed on this stock exchange. ये पहले से ही listed है. But think about a company called IREDA, okay, which is not a public company right now, but what this IREDA wants to do, 50% of its company, okay, they want to list on the exchange. So they will issue various shares. So let's say they issue 1000 shares, where 500 shares promoter will be holding and 500 shares will be deployed in the National Stock Exchange. Okay, and this deployment usually happens in primary market. Primary market is when the first time these stocks will be provided to the public. Okay, and this is what you call initial public offering. ठीक है, तभी आप लोग सुनते हो कि IPO लॉन्च हुआ, तो इरेडा का IPO लॉन्च होगा. Okay, the first time when these IPO will be allotted to various people, और फिर जब उसकी listing हो जाएगी, and the listing will happen, that means all these shares will be listed on the stock exchange. Then when the listing happens, then that means it goes to the secondary market. Then these shares can be bought and sold by anybody. So this is what the primary market and direct listing of any company's equity on the exchanges. So this is normal function, but GIFT mein, as all of you know, there is GIFT International Exchange. So on this exchange, how can a company directly list itself on this exchange? It is in this context this 21 member committee has been appointed. ठीक है, अब बैठ के आप लोग सोचिए क्या क्या प्रोसीजर रखा जाएगा so that direct listing becomes much more easier on GIFT exchange. And the chairman of this committee is, just abhi padha hai, what's the name, everyone? टीपाई है ना, टीवी मोहनदास पाई. चलो, so Odysseus we've already seen yesterday. We were telling that this is the private, moon lander mission. So fortunately this mission is also successful. Okay, it has successfully landed on lunar south pole. Okay, next is ISRO's PAPA detects solar wind impact. अब पापा कुछ नहीं है, एक पैकेज है within the Aditya L1 mission. Okay, this is what you call plasma analyzer package for Aditya. It's a payload on the Aditya L1 mission that is there to detect impact of solar winds. Okay, so please remember the context of this PAPA payload. Okay, and it is related to Aditya L1 mission, India's solar mission. Next is grey zone warfare, a new dimension in warfare. The grey zone warfare is nothing but it refers to such military actions that do not immediately provoke a conventional response. For example, propaganda chala rahe hain, है ना? Usually it happens. For example, information warfare, या फिर for example think about espionage or utilizing cyber threats that do not possess conventional threats. ठीक है, but all those threats that can disrupt any country's economy या फिर that can disrupt any of the normal functioning, all those are considered as grey zone warfare. Next is Sports news. So Janeke Shopman has been removed from Indian women hockey team coach. Okay. Now the federation is looking for a new coach to lead Indian women hockey team for 2026 World Cup. Next is Indian success in Asian Track Cycling Championship, which we've already discussed yesterday, that we won gold, bronze and silver over there. So Arshad Sheikh won his second gold in lion time, and Jyoti Gaderia also won gold in 500-meter time trial. Next is India's doping study ranking conducted by WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. It says India is ranking second worst country in the study. Most positive tests and sanctions, first Russia, then India and then China. Okay? Obituaries. Former Lok Sabha Speaker Manohar Joshi passes away at the age of 86. He was known for his association with Shiv Sena. Okay, so this is all for today. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll wind up this session. Kal subah milte hain. And in tomorrow afternoon, we'll be doing RBI circulars. ठीक है? कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो पूछ लो, अदरवाइज विल वाइंड अप दिस सेशन. चलो, thank you guys for joining. How to make notes from your current affairs sessions. Karthik, when I'm discussing these current affairs, I'm also telling you the most important parts of these current affairs also. Okay? So whatever I tell you in context of what are the important portions within the news, so you can collect or you can write down that thing on some paper. And also I have most of the time also tried to explain to you where you can utilize it in descriptive papers also. So you also try to note down that thing. Okay. E-commerce custom. So we are asking this in context of what? Moratorium के context में. If you're asking about custom duties, this is more than enough for general awareness. Okay? You just do this current affairs, do PIB and do RBI circulars. Okay? And do your schemes. Nothing, or schemes anyways will be covered in context of PIB only. Okay? तो it's a custom duty only. For example, if you bring any product from US, okay, to India via ship, okay, where this is a B2B transaction, okay, some retailer in India has sourced iPhones from USA, okay, and while these ships enter into India, they have to first pay custom duty. Okay? And this duty goes to the government. But whereas if an individual in India is seeking any iPhone, for instance, via e-commerce website. Take an example, Amazon, and it is sourcing not from India but from USA. ठीक है, तो apart from usual taxation, when the commodity will enter via e-commerce transaction, custom duty will not be imposed. ठीक है, तो बस इतना सही है. And in context of NABARD, Karthik, we'll be doing, agriculture current affairs at that particular point of time. So you just do that, and that will be sufficient. Okay, Saurabh, is this clear? So this moratorium with respect to imposition of these custom duties, मतलब जो रोक लगी हुई थी इन custom duties को अप्लाई करने के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया इज सेइंग कि भैया इसको जो रोक है उसको हटाओ, जिससे हम लोग कस्टम ड्यूटी लगा सके इन ट्रांजैक्शंस पर भी. ठीक है, so this is all for me from my side. So thank you guys for joining. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you.